I've got Geeks on tour here, live from across the world.
We're exactly halfway around the world in Indonesia, and the time zone reflects that.
Right. It's 8:30 in the morning our time. We just finished breakfast up in the buffet.
It's 8:30 in the morning on Thursday morning.
Right. And it's 8:30 at night on Wednesday night here. So you're 12 hours almost exactly. And I want to talk about your experience of AI and QR codes because we are in a group together and it came up of what you've experienced. First, just do a quick introduction because you live in a very unique home now.
That's true. I'm Jim.
I'm Chris.
And we are Geeks on Tour. And we've been Geeks on Tour for quite a few years.
Like 20.
Yeah, wow. So last year we sold our home and bought a cabin on a cruise ship. So we live on a residential cruise ship sailing around the world. And we're coming up on our 1-year villaversary, we call it, because they call these cabins villas.
Well, the name of the ship is the Villa V Odyssey. And there's about 300, maybe 350 of us residents on board right now. So we've been from South America all through the west side of North America, across over to Japan, down through the Philippines, across the South Pacific, New Zealand, Australia, and now we're in Indonesia.
We spent the holidays in French Polynesia, and we got a lot of scuba diving again. We're both scuba divers.
That's fantastic. And this came about because you said less and less people are going to Google to figure out their plans, and they're going to ChatGPT. So why don't we start with what you mean by that and who are those people that are doing
this? Well, that's the surprising part to me. I mean, when we get together with you and our group, clearly that there's going to be lots of use of AI because we are all a bit geeky. Well, but you just have a lot of normal people on here. I don't know. And a fair amount of older, although there are some younger too. And it's very much surprises me whenever we're having a conversation and saying, well, what are you going to do in this next port? And they say, well, I asked ChatGPT what I should do, and he told me blah, 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 blah. And I'm saying, whoa, you asked ChatGPT. And
it happens all the time.
And other things too, like I asked ChatGPT whether or not what's customary for tipping in this country. And what about clothing? You know, they ask ChatGPT just anything they want to know. He says, okay, well, you should go to this waterfall. Okay, how do I get there? And they ask ChatGPT that, you know, is there Uber in this country?
It's pretty cool.
Stuff like that.
Where do you go? What do you do? Everything ChatGPT has an answer, whether it's right or not. That's the key.
Yes. I see this sort of like how I misinterpreted the onslaught of digital photography, Chris, because I'm an old film guy and I thought, oh my gosh, this won't take off. It's not as good as real photographs and with real film. And then I watched it take off where people would accept not as good quality for convenience. And in the AI world, that would be a certain level of hallucinations occurring. They'll accept that because of the convenience of having a conversation and being able to talk about this and get more explanation. And of course, Google's pedaling very hard and doing some good strides to try to catch up. But ChatGPT is really taking the lead. And I'm seeing this in small towns. It's like years ago, people would say, well, nobody's going to their phone to get directions or, you know, or Google Maps. And I remember I was in a class with the mayor and he says, well, they're not using technology for this. They're still going to the yellow pages or something else. And a girl in the front class says, well, every time we leave the house, we look it up on Google and we look it up on Google Maps and see the reviews. And his eyes got about this big because afterwards, I asked him, why were you so shocked? He says, I knew how poor they were. I knew where they grew up, and they're using technology way beyond what I expected. And that's what I'm also seeing in small towns. The traditional website needs to realize it may not be as relevant at some point in the future.
Yeah, we've been reading that websites are pretty much going to be handled by an AI. You're going to get, and if you try and go to a website, the AI is going to look at the website first and decide what it is that you really want to see and put it there for you. It's amazing.
Is this just people who are on the boat traveling, or are you seeing some of the people in the towns using technology as well in this way?
When we are in towns, there's a lot of technology out there. Like we go to a brewery, for instance, instead of having
What?
menus, I know, right? Instead of having menus, or in addition to having menus, they'll have a QR code on the table, just taped to the table, and you scan that QR code and you can order and pay, and they know what table you're at. You don't have to interact with people, servers, whatever. Everything is done that way. You make your order, your food appears, you eat, and you can pay using that QR code and without having to interact too much with the staff.
I can't think offhand of an example of a local using AI, but I do have Translate, of course.
Mhm.
When we were in Japan, the servers or the clerks in a store just assumed that you had translation services, and they would talk into their translator and show us the English, and we would talk into our Google Translate and show them the Japanese.
So that's all AI. And to get around in all of these countries, there's Uber and Grab and the different ride sharing possibilities, and they're all AI, obviously.
So now, not everybody is adept. And it drives me crazy when we'll be sitting at lunch with a group of people from the ship, and some of them will say, "Oh, I hate my phone. I hate my phone. Sometimes I just want to throw it overboard." And I say, "Well, why don't you then?" Says, "Because I have to have it. I have to have it." And I said, "Well, then you should learn to love it. It allows you this lifestyle. It allows you to travel this way because of the translate and the ability to clear immigrations just by filling out a form on your phone and call an Uber and get around." I don't know if I've convinced them, but they haven't thrown their phones overboard.
Yeah.
Yet,
They
of
realize
course.
they need connectivity.
So, how have you been using AI in your journeys? Because you have been teaching technology. They have a great channel. I'll make sure to put it there. It's still excellent. It started as what does that button do on your phone, and it's built up to such a fantastic resource of using technology.
Yes, I've been teaching technology since 1983. You know, I started with VisiCalc and Apple IIe's and CPM, and but I have tried to keep up. And but so a lot of people come to me with their tech questions. But where do I go when I have a tech question? I have my tutor now in I use Gemini because I'm a Google girl. I pay for extra storage through Google's cloud storage, and with that I get the paid version of Gemini, and paid versions are better, so I pretty much stick to Gemini for mine. So for example, time zones. Oh my God, are time zones an issue in this lifestyle? And in trying to figure out the best way to handle it between your phone and your calendar, I've I've gone in deep dives with Gemini. Say, well, what about this and what about that? And I've caught it in some errors, but still, just the back and forth so helps me. Other than him once in a while, and I get tired of talking to him. I don't have anybody really to have conversations about the way the different settings interact with each other. When do you need to take it off of automatic time zones and put it into manual? And then how do you find the right time zone for where you are? It's been a real help.
And they're all different. All of these phones have little idiosyncrasies. So one phone will do it one way and have all of the choices that you might have on your phone, but an Android is different from an iPhone, and a Samsung is different from a Pixel. So asking the AI what are the differences there, it'll help you to do that. It's really, really handy.
Following up on my time zone issue. Yes, because the special time zone issue with living on a ship is that you can't depend on setting a time for a location. If you're setting a time for something that's happening on the ship, it's going to be at whatever time zone the ship happens to be in, which changes, but the time doesn't. 8 o'clock. So if I set something today for 8 o'clock next month, on a day next month in my calendar, we'll be in a different time zone then, and it won't show 8 o'clock anymore. It'll show 7 or 6 or 9. The only solution is that you do have to go into that event and change the time zone to whatever is correct. So, but that's a lot of work, right? Well, I came up with this. I enter the words ship time in the description of the event, and then every time we change time zones, I ask Gemini to go to my calendar, find all the events that say ship time, and change their time zone to what is now the current time zone.
And that works.
And that was pretty cool that it can do that Gemini has access to my calendar.
We started with learning prompt engineering and all, and now it's moving to agents or agentic act, where it's now doing something like that for you. I want, when this occurs, these conditions, do this for me. And that's really powerful. And I think Google's doing something where they're really working to find where people are stuck and providing AI solutions, which is quite exciting to see. We just taught our course, the Introduction to AI Agents, and we talk about Zapier, but we also talk about Google Workspace and agents in the paid version of ChatGPT to see the cool window workspace that opens up and show people that, because it's kind of a great demonstration. And it takes a little while to get the understanding of what is an agent versus just using ChatGPT or a standard chat.
So what I just described in using Gemini to change my calendar entry time zones, would you call that an agent?
The way we like to describe it is standard use of ChatGPT, which would be prompt work, is sort of like saying, I want you to research the very best coffee in Raleigh based on what you know from me talking about it so far. Then moving into agent says, I want you to find the coffee shop and make reservations for us to go to it next week. So now it's out and doing something. So it's not that the lines can't sometimes blur, but it's really going out and doing things on your behalf. In fact, even better example would be whenever we change time zones, I want you to go shift this. So we would do it completely automatically, and you don't have to even ask it.
Oh.
So it's starting to get more of a sense of the agent quality of it.
I would do that just by going to my Gmail and then clicking on the Gemini Sparkle and asking it to do that.
Right. And this is something would be set up so whenever that meeting occurs, takes charge and does it, so that you don't have to click on the sparkle.
I have more to learn, but I'll ask Gemini to help me.
Yes, yes, exactly. So eager to hear what you think on that. What other things are you learning as you're traveling? Mention some of the places you've been.
We boarded in Colombia, in
Okay.
Cartagena, Colombia, but we were just there for a day, and then Cologne, and then through the Panama Canal, and then we headed north. So we got on after the ship had gone around South America.
The
And
first
then
time.
Alaska, right? And then over to
Yeah.
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Well, we came up the west coast from Panama, so we did Mexico, and from Mexico, uh, the U.S. We went to Hawaii. Was our first United States port, Honolulu, and then we came back to San Diego. Went up the west coast of California, uh, Oregon, Washington, and into Canada, and then up through Alaska. We spent quite a bit of time in Alaska, and then across the Bering Straits into Japan. And we've had quite a bit of strange weather. We've passed erupting volcanoes. We've been involved in some earthquakes and some tsunamis. But when you're at sea, a tsunami does not affect you. It's only when you're on land. And we've been, let's see, down through the Philippines. We did Taiwan. We did all of these places. We're learning, and we're spending. One of the cool things about this ship is it stays in port for more than one day. A
Mm.
a typical cruise ship is going to go into a port in the morning after sailing all night. They let people off, and all aboard is 5 or 6 o'clock that evening, and everybody has to get back on the ship, and they take off again and go to a different port. We go into a port and we stay for a couple of days, usually, sometimes 3 and 4 days. We were just in Bali in Indonesia for 4 days. We came into a new port this morning called
Wangapoo.
Wangapoo. and cruise ships don't come into this port very often, so the locals come out and come down to the pier and put on a cultural presentation. So we had kids dancing for us this morning and music and things like that. They actually rolled out the red carpet for us, and that's happened in a lot of places. Now, when we were in Australia, that didn't happen very often. But in some of these little islands, out of the way places, when we were in Yap in the South Pacific, we were the largest cruise ship, and we're not very big, but we were the largest cruise ship that's ever come into their port, and it was pretty cool. So we get we get to see the locals. We get to spend a little bit of time, and we can go farther afield. A lot of people will get off the ship for several days and go to other locations. So when we're in Hong Kong, for instance, people will go to China. The ship is not allowed to go to China because of age restrictions and stuff like that of the ship, not us.
Yeah. But you mentioned QR codes.
Yes.
And do you remember back when QR codes first got started? Those of us techies were saying, wow, this is so cool. This is going to take over everything. And then people started using them on their websites. Why have a QR code on a website? You just have a link. And they kind of went away. They kind of were, oh, well, that was a fad. And well, they are back. QR codes are
move the Geeks. You got Geek over her face right now. Hold on a second.
That's because she
just because I waved my hand and this camera thinks I was directing it to do something.
Good.
Yeah.
You're right. When we began, we thought it was going to take off, but my experience is it actually took off in Asia and other places when America was like putting it on hold.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware back then.
Yeah.
My recollection is it came out and it was way cool, and then it just died away, and now it's back, and it's part of the fabric of life now.
Japan had areas where some of the Asian places where you could order food like in a train station with QR codes and things. So
one more thing on QR codes is one thing I've been using a fair amount lately is for sharing photos. You know, photos are my main thing, and I use Google Photos, but it doesn't matter. A lot of people have Androids and a lot of people have iPhones, and I don't even think we see a majority in either one. Do you?
No, I think it's still pretty half and half
It's
on our
pretty
ship.
50-50. So if I take a picture of somebody and it's a good picture and I want to give it to them, you know, odds are 50-50. If they have an Android, which is what I took the picture with, I can share it with them with, I don't know what, there is an Android to Android, just like the AirDrop on, if it's iPhone and iPhone, there's AirDrop. If it's Android to Android, there's a similar thing. But if it's mixed, now you can bring up a QR code, and I take a picture, I say share with a QR code. They can scan that QR code, and now that's on their phone without having to get their email or their phone number or any of that kind of stuff.
That's pretty cool. Now, is that intrinsic? That's intrinsic in Google Photos, or the phone?
No, it's on. I think it's part of just Android. It's
I
called
see.
Quick Share.
Quick share. I see.
Yeah, Quick Share is how you can do Android to Android. But if it's not an Android, then within the Quick Share, there's a second setting that says just pull up a QR code, and then they can scan the QR code.
Fantastic.
And I've used that several times.
That's great.
What other technology? We took a bridge tour. What kind of cool stuff was up there?
Yeah. Well, they don't have a big steering wheel anymore. They don't have that big ship's wheel. They just have joysticks to maneuver the ship around, and a lot of big screens on the bridge to tell people where we are, or to tell the officers on the ship. And then we have two wing controls that have the same controls on the port side and the starboard side, as well as in the middle. And they have captain's chairs, sort of like the Star Trek, the big comfy chairs, the bridge. But they have two sitting up there instead of just one. So it's
crazy.
Yeah.
If the internet went down, we would be lost at sea. I don't
know. We still have paper charts, and we have but in the chart,
they have a sextant.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. And they have redundant, operations up there. So if one goes down, although there's something called the AIS, and it has to do with locating us, and you can go to a website called Cruise Mapper and put in our ship's name, and you can see where we are at any time. And we have a link to that on our web page and our Cruising Life, and you can see where we are. Well, that piece of equipment went down when we were in Perth, Australia, or actually Fremantle, and it kept us in Fremantle even while we were...
It was Adelaide, actually.
Adelaide, okay.
It was between Adelaide and Fremantle.
And
nobody knew where we were.
Yeah. So we got all the way to Indonesia before they fixed it.
But speaking of internet, we are using Starlink. The ship has 4 Starlink antennas.
You did it again.
Oh, I can't use my hands and not have this camera move. The ship has Starlink antennas, and that signal then gets fed into the Wi-Fi throughout the ship. And that's what we are using right now. And generally, it's been great. Now, when people get to land, that's when they have the issues, because their phone needs to have some kind of international data plan. So eSIMs, that's another main technology that we are dealing with, is eSIMs for your phone.
Tell people about what eSIMs are.
Only the newer phones have them.
Okay. So what are eSIMs for people who don't know?
Well, I mean, a cell phone needs to have a SIM, subscriber information module. That's what tells your phone who you're paying to connect to cell towers and get internet and calling services. And they always used to be these little cards, these tiny little cards, plastic, that slipped into the phone. And if you went to a different country, you would take out the SIM card from your old country and put in a SIM card. An eSIM is now, once again, you just scan a QR code, and now you have an electronic SIM in your phone that you have to set up. And they are super simple or impossibly complex. There's no middle ground
I see.
to get them to work.
I see. So someplace it works and someplace forget it.
Yeah. Or some phones or some eSIMs.
You need a cell tower in order for any of this stuff to work.
I see.
When we're at sea, there are no cell towers out there yet. And so these things can only be configured when we're close to shore or in port. And so, and the misconceptions about what the internet is and how it works is rampant around the world, especially on this ship, because we have people who know a lot about it, and then we know people who just don't have a whole lot of knowledge about this, and they think that Wi-Fi is the internet, or that WhatsApp, the application, is the internet. And if they can get it, everything's fine. If they can't, maybe that's all they use. So WhatsApp is a big thing here on the ship for communications for the residents and the crew.
And then when you visit different towns and stuff, have you seen technology that was surprising or something you didn't expect on your journeys getting off the boat?
Well, the fact that everyone has a cell phone is pretty much amazing.
It's assumed.
It's everyone, even a lot of kids have cell phones. So as you're walking down the road, and everyone is connected somehow. Even if you're not connected, they're connected. So it's pretty cool.
Whether you're in a tiny, poor South Pacific island or whether you're in the metropolis of Sydney, Australia, everybody has a phone.
And are most of those smartphones versus the old flip phones? Yeah, I figured that.
Oh yeah, they're all of them are smartphones, it seems, these days. Yeah.
I have had to learn that there's things other than Samsung and Apple. Like, have you heard of an Oppo phone? Oppo is very big in Australia and New Zealand. It's an Android, but it's its own
and
Android.
It's pretty different. It's different enough that you have to learn how to use it. So you use an AI to help you with it.
Oh, tap to pay. That's a big one. To get on a bus or a train, you just take your phone and tap it onto the terminal, and the gate opens, and you can get on the train.
Tap to pay is a lot more places than you expected, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't need cash at all anymore. I mean, we always go to an ATM and get some cash, but when we leave that country, we have to find ways to get rid of our cash because we haven't had to use it. It's all tap to pay.
And it's great because you get a record of it. Cash, there's no record.
Is there a tap to pay service that seems to be more universal than others? Or is it just your phone tap to pay? Like Android or Apple tap to pay.
I use Google Wallet on mine for the most part.
And iPhone's Apple Wallet, yeah.
But there are some specialty cards that you can get in certain places. Where was it? In Melbourne, I think. It didn't have the regular tap to pay. You had to use an app and put it in your wallet and put money in it. So it was a little bit different.
It was a special transit pass. Oh, and this was one time, right, where Google Wallet could get that particular transit pass, but Apple couldn't.
Yeah, the
Usually
Apple
it's the other way
people
around.
had to buy a
A
physical
physical card.
card and put money on the card using an app, access through a QR code.
So really, people who are not adept with their phones, oh, they really do have a hard time.
Yep.
You know, it's a very frustrating world out there if you're not good with your phone.
Yeah. And that's another thing. We see people of all ages on these public transit, uh, and they seem to be pretty adept with it. They're not using cards or coins.
Well, we've covered quite a bit, and it all started on hearing that people that you might have thought weren't technologically savvy have already fallen in love with what ChatGPT can do, and they're looking past the hallucinations and so forth of it. Hopefully, the error rate's small enough that it's not significant versus the old Google search or Google Maps, and Google's working hard to compete, to be relevant. And more people you'll see when you're doing search, it's going, don't you want to use Google's AI here? Don't you want to use Gemini here? And we're seeing how it's infused in everything, including in Google ledger sheets now has equal AI, and every single aspect. One of the ones that I think's fun, and hopefully you've had a chance to use, is just YouTube. You see a long video, and they're trying to use it as clickbait to get to a point. You click the little star, and you go, "What's the main point here?" And it tells you, and you don't have to listen to the whole video.
Or one thing I did the other day, because it was just really pissing me off, these videos that the title of it are really clickbaity. So the title of it said, somebody falls on their face. And so and it's a 40-minute video. And I started watching, all I wanted to see was the so and so falling on their face. And I finally got tired of it. I took the URL, I put it into NotebookLM, and then I asked NotebookLM, where in this video does so and so fall on their face? And it told me nowhere.
Yeah, that's great. And have you tried the little star under the video too? The ability to access questions right off the video directly now.
So no, I don't think I have.
Yeah, when you go to a video, now I'm going to bring one up to describe it. When you bring up a video, and if you go to the bottom next to share, it has the word ask with a little star.
Okay. You can ask in YouTube. Okay.
Yes, that's right. So you're going to see that more and more and more, and it will give a direct link to the location. So you might find what you're looking for. You can now ask right under the video immediately. I just took one and I just said, tell me where he starts getting to the point, and gave me the exact links where he talked about the point is in the video. So this is
another way. So this is another way the AI is lessening creators' impact. I mean, as a YouTube creator, we want more time viewed. But if people can just ask and go straight to a spot, then they're not going to watch the whole video, and we suffer.
Unless you're creating good enough content that they'll want to stay on it. You see, I think
that's right.
I think what they're going to penalize is clickbait, because it's everywhere from the news on. So I can get to the point. If you can't get to the point enough that I want to hear more, I'm going to use these tools and go to it, and you're going to lose out. So it is important that people are getting higher quality, more personalized content that's worthy of someone's attention, and stop tricking them with stuff, because Google's giving us ways to work around it. And that's one. And of course, you mentioned NotebookLM's a fantastic tool. I just showed it to someone who said, they get challenged in learning new things. And I go, NotebookLM's one of the best ways because you can have multimodal. So if you learn better by audio, you can get it. If you learn better by video, you can get it. If you learn better by a mind map, you can get it. And as someone who has some challenges with learning at times, it's become my favorite friend. I want to learn something, I want to go into detail and then make it. Well, this has been so much fun. I wanted to talk about the experience when you talked about ChatGPT and a little sense of how you're viewing technology around the world, and just tell them a little bit about your show, because it went from you being in an RV to now being in a boat touring the whole world. And I think that's a perfect evolution. Actually, you started, Chris, in a classroom, and then you had this
Right.
technician that started harassing you, and you finally surrendered and married him. And then you went from that to a RV, and then toured all really kind of around the U.S. and the world. You did a little overseas tour in RV too, and now you've moved to a boat, which to me is a perfect extension of your big adventures.
It is. It and 1 year in, and we are absolutely loving it. But yes, I and our tagline for Geeks on Tour has changed so many times. I keep trying to come up with, okay, who are we and what do we do anyway? I think I really like what we've now come up with. What's the business card? Or go to the home page of the website. I don't want to mess it up. Just yeah, homepage. Um, that we have been teaching travelers to make better use of technology since 2004. Now, we've been teaching technology since 1983,
Yeah.
but since 2004, we've been traveling constantly, either by RV or now by ship. And boy, do we have lots of opportunity to teach people on board this ship. I can't walk down the hall without at least one person, if not two or three, saying, "Oh, Chris, come here. I have a question for you." And they get out their phone.
That's
And that's
wonderful.
another cool thing about living on a ship. We have a community here, and they know us, and we know them, and we can help them. And it's a phenomenal way of life.
So our website, yes, thank you, geeksontour.com, has collected our teaching materials since I think that's since like 2004, and we're just about to hit the 1,000 tutorial videos. They're
Wow.
all numbered. We're about to hit 1,000, and then there's articles. I've been putting out a monthly newsletter every month since 2007. I have not missed 1 month. And then top tips, and a lot of the material on our website is free for all. But if you're willing to pay us a little bit of money, we give you some extra stuff on the website and private Zoom calls. But yeah, websites are becoming less and less relevant. I mean, when we tell people our website, it just kind of goes over their head. But if we tell them our YouTube channel, they're right there and they've clicked subscribe already.
That's why I'm teaching my YouTube Academy. It's so important because it's one of my main choices for people to realize, hey guys, you need to be on other places. And what I say is what matters is you're getting business, not that they went to your website. You need to think broader. What are the tools to reach the customers that are relevant now?
And we're talking worldwide. People speak YouTube worldwide. I mean, even if you don't speak the same language, we say YouTube. We open our YouTube channel and show them the header, and they bring up their phone. They can go right there and subscribe.
That's exciting. Well, thanks, folks. This was delightful. And thanks for being willing to get up early for us. Oh, what a wonderful closing picture there.
Oh, yeah.
I love
Yep.
that. I love that. This was great. Thanks so much. And look forward to hearing more about you and dropping in our weekly group when the time zone works for you as well. How long
Yeah.
have we had that technology sharing group?
Well, you found us
Picasa.
because of Picasa. And that has to be before 2015, because as of 2015, it was Google Photos.
Okay, cool. That's great.
So say 2014,
Yeah,
12
2014 or
years.
something at least. Yeah, yeah. We've had a
And
weekly.
you were well established when we got on. I mean, your group
Yeah.
was well established before we got
So
there.
it's probably, you're right, probably 15 or more years of weekly sharing technology, which has been exciting. So, and now you drop in when you can, and we have other people in other areas of the world that are of now branching out. So that's great.
I so agree that educators need to work AI into their education process, not to tell their students, no, don't use it. It's a fact of life now. You have to learn how to use AI, not be told not to.
Yeah, and I'm excited you saw some of the articles on it that I just got a new one out today to help educators. But one of the things, Chris, that we're pushing is use it as a wake up call to improve education in general. What if we have so much experiential and thinking activities now in education that if they have it or not, they're still learning and mastering what they need to master? So see it as a alert to improve the quality of education. And then it's a tool because sometimes young people in a community college may not have internet access or tools like this. So you need to start using this as a launch board for just improving education, more experience, more real-time
Yeah.
discussions, more interviewing people, more people skills development, all of those things.
And I just thought you had some great ideas as for exactly how a teacher can integrate. Like, don't just have them write a paper and then you have to figure out how much did they use AI on this. Ask them, write a paper about how you used AI to write this paper and where you had to correct it and what it did right and what it did wrong. I thought it was brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, the last thing I have to mention is your wonderful book. If anyone wants to learn about Google Photos, let them know about that and we'll wrap it up.
Learn Google Photos, available on Amazon, but you have to pay attention to the update pages on my website now because, yeah, it changes all the time.
Right. And
But the
so
book is there.
you get the book and also the updates, right, to be aware of it. So, yeah,
Right.
just follow them on it. Yeah, great. Thanks.
It's a link.
Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Good to